It's 9 p.m. Monday night, while the rest of the world slows down. You're tuning in to the Final Boss podcast. This is Motivation Mondays, where mindsets shift, hustle gets honored, and the 6 pillars of success get broken all the way down. We're talking motivation, resilience, sacrifice, consistency, persistence, and perseverance. Hosted by the one and only Turbo, the CEO, bringing real talk, raw stories, and relentless energy to spark your week with purpose. So lock in, take notes, and remember, success ain't just a dream, it's a discipline.
Welcome to Monday night's edition of the Final Boss podcast. It is Motivation Monday. Listen, hey man, I'm here. We are here. We're in this community together, right? This is a journey. The Final Boss journey, Final Boss community, Final Boss podcast, Final Boss family, Final Boss nation, right? Let's give it up to everybody. Every single one of you, every last single one of you, man. Listen, I got something to tell you tonight, right? Don't you guys laugh at me. Don't laugh, right? So, I'm trying to lose my voice. So, hey, Chikandi, what's going on? Welcome to Chikandi. 1MPI 80. Thank you for being here. Zane Ward, thank you for being here. As always, the wonderful and very analytical, always on point, the miss Andrea's in the building. Yeah, she's in the building, right? Now, before we get into tonight's show, man, I have to tell you guys this, right? Don't laugh at me, but I've been trying to lose my voice all day. I've done the gargling with warm water. I've drunk some honey. I've been doing all of the things, right? So bear with me. I have to be here, right? You have to be here. The show must continue. Voice or no voice. Y'all gonna have me out here doing sign language to keep the show going, right? Listen. Listen, right? So, excuse me. Sorry. And I have a little cough. It's just a little one. It's a baby cough, right? Not a real cough, a baby cough. Man. But I'm here to show you that consistency through all adversities is what leads to success. And tonight is no different, right? Tonight is no different. So tonight, this is episode number 207. It's Motivation Monday. It's Motivation Monday, man. And you know, we always bring the high level energy on Motivation Monday. I don't know about tonight though. Nah, I'm gonna bring the energy anyway. If I have to start doing some sign language, man, then y'all already know, right? The voice is completely gone. So listen, teach and every single one of you, whether you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, right? Twitch, Kick, Instagram, or Spotify. You are at the right place. You are where you're supposed to be. You are part of the family, right? And this wasn't by chance that you was brought here. This is alignment, right? This is where you're supposed to be, right? So, season 4, The Rebirth, episode number 207. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the shed, right? Shed or suffocate. As we are rapidly approaching season 5, man. Rapidly approaching season 5. Season 5, we're 93 episodes away. 93 episodes away from season 5. Season 5, the harvest/shed, right? And this is what I need you to know. You cannot harvest what you refused to shed, man. So we're going to be getting into it tonight. And we're going to start with the brass tacks. brass tacks of the evening, right? Here it is. The snake does not mourn its skin. It sheds it and moves. The skin was never the snake, right? And you can apply that to you. And that was to your personal life, right? We shed skins all the time. We become new people all the time. If you know what you're doing, right? So take a moment of silence, right? Taking a moment of silence, right? Take a breathe. Take a breath. I'm gonna sip on this real quick. Because it's something I want you to know. Thank you for doing that. Something I want you to know, right? Because right now, in this exact moment, somebody tuned into this show and they're suffocating, right? Not physically, not medically, spiritually, strategically, right? Psychologically, right? They are being strangled by the version of themselves that cannot bring themselves to release. The old title, the old story, the old wound they have been carrying so long, it stopped being a wound and it started being an introduction. They walk into rooms, and the first thing out of their mouths is who they used to be, what they used to have, what was done to them, what survived, right? Or what they survived. And every time they introduce themselves by the past, they tighten the grip on a skin that is already expired, right? That, my friends, is not loyalty. That is not honor. Sorry. That is fear wearing familiar clothing and calling it self identity, right? And I need you to understand something before we go on 1 second further, right? The rebirth is not a comfortable season. It was never designed to be. Season 4 was not named the rebirth because we're going to sit around and celebrate who we already built. The rebirth is an active, biological, sometimes painful process of releasing what no longer fits so that what is actually growing inside has room to become what it's always supposed to be. And tonight on episode 207, as we are 93 episodes away from season 5, the harvest, the shed, right? This right here, you cannot harvest, right? You cannot harvest what you refuse to shed, right? You cannot walk into a field of abundance still wearing the skin of a version of yourself that was built for a different season. The harvest does not adjust to the unprepared. The unprepared adjust to the harvest or they miss it entirely. And tonight we're we're not talking about adding. We're not talking about launching new ventures, creating new content. Tonight we're talking about releasing, right? Tonight is the hardest kind of Monday because it does not ask you to go get something. It asks you to put something down, right? Shed or suffocate, right? That is the title. That is the mandate. That is the entire operating instruction for tonight's episode, right? And honestly, for this entire season, if you're moving with intention, that's what you need to be, right? Listen, I am the Final Boss. Right? This is the Final Boss Podcast, Season 4, The Rebirth. We are live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 days a week. Right? And I'm not going to ease up on you. I'm not. We're going to bring the pressure. And to every single person in this room tonight, every smart who came for substance, every final boss who came for doctrine, every motivator who came to refuel, every warrior who became every warrior who came, right? Because Monday is not optional and neither is growth. Welcome to episode 207, right? But before we go deep into tonight's content, I want to establish the strategic context of this exact moment, right? Because context, even the most powerful instruction, becomes noise, right? We are season 4 of the rebirth. We are past the midpoint, the beginning midpoint, right? Before the halfway mark. The Final Boss community has been showing up every single week. Motivation Mondays, Tech Tuesdays, Merger Wednesdays, Special Guest Thursdays, Sitting Down Sundays, 5 shows every week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This is not casual content consumption. This is a curriculum, right? And every episode in season 4 is a lesson inside a single overarching instruction, which is this right here. You cannot become who you are being called to become while still being who you used to be, right? That sounds obvious when I say it out loud, right? It is one of those statements that everybody nods at and almost nobody actually executes on. Because the intellectual understanding and transformation and the actual lived experience of releasing your old identity are two completely different things, right? You can understand the concept perfectly and still be suffocating inside a skin you outgrew, right? Skin you outgrown 3 years ago, right? Now, 93 episodes away from season 5. I need you to hold that number for a second, right? 93. Seems like a lot, right? Seems like a lot. But at 5 shows a week, it's roughly 19 weeks, right? Call it 5 months, right? In 5 months. And we already have the first week down, right? Season 4 ends and season 5, the harvest begins, right? A harvest is a collection of what was planted and cultivated during the growth season. Farmers do not plant during harvest. They collect, they reap. The harvest is not the time for preparation. The harvest is the payoff of preparation. And that's preparation that's not already the wait, hold on. The harvest is not the time. Oh yeah, the harvest is not time for the preparation. Memory. The harvest is the payoff of preparation that already happened, which means every single thing you do, every skin you shed, every decision you make, every uncomfortable conversation, every pivot you execute in the next 93 episodes is directly determining what is available for collection when season 5 begins. If you shed the right things now, if you use the rebirth the way the rebirth was designed to be used, you show up to the harvest as fully expressed, fully unburdened, fully activated, right? Fully activated. And the harvest will be enormous. It will be enormous. If you carry dead weight, carry dead skin through the rest of season 4 into season 5, you show up to the harvest field restricted, right? Compressed, unable to reach, stretch, or receive everything that was grown for you because you are still wrapped in a layer that does not belong to you anymore. Right? That's not a metaphor. This is mechanics. The metaphor helps you visualize it, right? The mechanics are what you're actually governing when it comes to the outcome. 93 episodes, the clock is running. The rebirth is clearing. The harvest is the collection. And tonight, episode 207 is we're going to be asking the most direct question of the season, right? And here it is, right? What are you still wearing right now that needs to come off? What are you still wearing right now that needs to come off? And don't be freaky. I ain't talking about clothes, right? Don't be trying to get naked during class, right? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, keep those clothes on, man. Keep those clothes on. No hallway passes. No getting naked, right? No bathroom breaks, right? I'm calling the principal. Stay your ass in your chair right now, right? Because class is in session. Now, let me be precise, right? Let me be precise for a moment. I've learned that when you leave space for interpretation in this area, people will redefine the concept into something more comfortable and then wonder why nothing changes. Shedding is not quitting, right? Let me say that again. Shedding is not quitting, right? And let me, I'm going to say it for those in the back, right? For the people who heard the word shed and immediately started thinking about all the things they want to abandon when things get hard. Shedding is not quitting. Shedding is not an escape hatch. Shedding is not giving up on the mission. Shedding is not burning down everything you built because you had a rough week. Shedding. Shedding is the intentional biological release of what has been genuinely outgrown, right? That word genuinely matters because a snake does not shed healthy skin. A snake does not shed skin that still fits. It sheds skin that it has grown beyond, right? There are a lot of animals that shed skins. Those crabs that you guys love to eat, they shed. Those spiders that you be running from, they shed skins, right? Each animal sheds skins to grow, right? And you should be shedding skin to grow as well, right? That skin, that skin was perfect at one point in the skin's development, in the animals or snakes' development. It was exactly what was needed. It served its function with excellence. It protected the snake. It was the right fit for the snake at the stage of its life at that moment. But the snake kept growing. The skin did not, right? And at some point, the skin was once the snake's protection, right? It became the snake's restriction. What was armor becomes a cage. What was functional becomes friction. What was a suit becomes a straitjacket. That is the moment of the shed. And here is what I need you to understand. First of all, to my smarts who understand from purely practical standpoint, the shed is not optional at that point. Once the snake has grown beyond the skin, there are only two options: shed or suffocate. The skin will not expand indefinitely. The snake's growth will not stop out of respect for the skin. Something has to give, right? And if the snake does not shed, the restriction compounds until the snake cannot breathe, cannot eat, cannot move with any real effectiveness. And most people, even people in this room right now, right, are not at the beginning of this process. You are not 3 inches into the outgrown skin. You are deep into it. The restriction has been building for months, maybe years. You have been working hard, pushing forward, and wondering why the results do not match the effort. That gap between effort and result is often not a strategy problem. It is a shed problem, right? The effort is real. The capacity is real. The old skin is compressing both, right? And I know what some of you guys are thinking right now. I know what you're thinking, right? Your mind is telling you, you've been going through this for a while. You know what you have to do. You have to let go. You're stunning your growth. You have to let go. You're being restricted and you know it. You must shed. The harvest will be here. And you won't be here for the harvest because you are allowing the restriction to cut off your next stage. You've done the work. Your next stage is the harvest. You must know this. You must realize this. But in order for you to get the harvest, you must shed. The restrictions that are holding you back, you must let them go. All of them. If you want to grow, you must shed. And you can start now, right? Stop trying to stretch the old framework to accommodate the new version of who you are. It was not built for that version. It was built for a version you have already surpassed. The framework that got you to this level was exactly right for getting you to this level. It does not automatically qualify to take you to the next one. You will be stuck in the shed, right? In the restriction process. Because new levels require new skin. That is not a motivational statement. That is an operating reality, right? And the first step toward the new skin is being honest that the old one has expired, right? The old one has expired. And tonight, I'm giving you 5 specific skins, 5 categories of what gets outgrown. Right? 5 areas where the restriction is most commonly located when people come to me and saying they feel stuck. They feel stagnant. They feel like they are working at full capacity and getting half results. You, you do not have to be carrying all 5. But I guarantee at least one of these is the primary friction point between where you are right now and where you're supposed to be when the harvest comes, right? And listen, these are uncomfortable moments. They're uncomfortable conversations. And this is what the final boss is all about. We bring you the most uncomfortable conversation, right? Let's talk about skin number 1. Skin number 1 is what I call the Identity Credential, right? This is the title you used to hold, the job, the rank, the position, the status, right? The thing you built your entire sense of self around for years. And then something shifted, right? You left that position. You transitioned out of that role. The organization changed, the industry shifted. Whatever happened, the credential is no longer your current reality. But you're still wearing that skin. You're still saying, I am such and such. and you haven't been such and such at such and such for 20 years, right? You still introduce yourself by it. You still make decisions based on it. You still measure your current progress against the standard of a life you are no longer living. The identity credential is one of the heaviest skins there is because it has social reinforcement. People remember you that way, right? They introduce you that way, right? Every time they do, the skin gets a little tighter, right? And I'm telling you right now, there's a skin that I'm shedding right now, right? The world knows me as Turbo or Turbo the CEO. I'm shedding that skin. Hopefully, by the end of season 4, before going into the harvest, I will shed it completely. And I will be known as something else, a new brand, new verbiage, right? Because I'm entering into a different space where Turbo and Turbo the CEO no longer serves. They can't get carried over, right? And then here's skin number 2. Skin number 2 is the justified wound, right? This one is the most dangerous of the 5 because it has the most defense, right? The betrayal was real. The setback was real. The person who left, the system that failed you, the opportunity that was taken, the injustice that was done, all of it happened. All of it was wrong. You have every right to that wound, and it is actively killing you, right? You, right? You, not the event. The continued carrying of the event as your primary identity. Wounds that are carried as identity stop being wounds and start being walls, right? And a wall that was built to keep the pain out eventually becomes a wall that keeps the life out too, right? Now, here's an example. I'm a disabled veteran, right? And for a long time, early on after I was released from the military, my identity became disabled veteran, right? As a title, as an identity. And that kept me in a cage. And I had to get out of that cage, right? Some of these cages that we put on ourselves are self-inflicted. We have to find the keys to open our own cages, right? I had to get out of that. I stopped calling myself a disabled veteran. I stopped using that identity, right? I still have it for its purpose of what it's supposed to do for my healthcare and well-being. But as an identity, I had to shed that, right? And you need to shed yours too, right? Some of you with medical issues, you wear it as a crutch. I'm such and such with such and such. I'm such and such and with such and such. It's time to shed and release all of that, right? And then there's skin number 3. This is the comfortable ceiling. You found a level. It is respectable. It pays what it pays. And people in your circle look at you with approval, right? It is not what you were built for, but the comfort of it has made the distance from your actual ceiling feel negotiable. That comfort is a skin. It is tight. It is restricting. And the problem with a comfortable ceiling is that it does not feel like suffocation, right? It feels like stability. Right up until the moment you look up and realize you have not moved in 3 years, right? You haven't moved in 3 years. And skin number 4, right? Skin number 4 is an outdated belief system. What you decided about yourself at 25 is not automatically true at 45. What you concluded about money, about what is possible for someone who looks like you, comes from where you come from, survived what you survived. Those beliefs were verdicts handed down from the courts that no longer have jurisdiction over your life. Conclusions drawn from incomplete evidence by a version of you that did not have access to everything you have access to now. Right? The belief is old. The evidence has changed. Shed the old conclusion, right? And then skin number 5. Skin number 5. Right? Skin number 5 is the approval dependency. Right? Waiting for the room to validate the next move. Waiting for people who still wear their own dead skin to confirm that it is safe to shed yours. That wait is the suffocation in slow motion. 5 skins. Which one is yours tonight, right? And be honest. These conversations are about being honest, man. That honesty is the beginning of the shed. You must know where you are, right? And this is a segment right here. This segment is for my smarts. Specifically, right? But everybody in the room needs to hear this because it might be the most practically important information in tonight's episode. The scientific term for a snake shedding its snake is called ecdysis, right? It comes from the Greek word ecdysis, which means getting out. The process is not instantaneous. It does not happen in a flash of dramatic transformation. It is a slow, methodical, vulnerable process that can take days, sometimes weeks. And during that process, something happens that I need you to completely understand, right? Before a snake sheds, its eyes cloud over, right? The spectacles, which are transparent scales covering the snake's eyes, they fill with fluid as the old skin begins to separate. The skin's vision goes opaque. It becomes temporarily blind, near blind, right? It cannot see with any real clarity. It becomes more vulnerable during the shed than almost any other point in its life. Predators can approach. The snake cannot identify threats at a distance. Its colors dull. Its movement slows. It often stops eating during this period. It looks from every external observation like it is sick, like it is in a decline, like something is deeply wrong. From the outside, you generally cannot tell the difference between a snake in the middle of a healthy shed and a snake that is actually dying, right? Now, I need you to sit in that for a moment. I need you to sit in that for a moment, right? Because what I just described is not just snake biology. I just described what transformation looks like from the outside to people who are watching you go through it. The confusion on your face right now, I see it. I see the confusion. Right? The cloudiness in your vision about the next step. The fact that your output has slowed. The fact that you have gone quiet in certain spaces. The fact that you are not as loud, not as visible, not as aggressively promotional as you were 6 months ago. Wait a minute. Am I going through a shed? I'm going through a shed. The fact you look to some of the people watching you, it looked like you might be struggling, but you're not. You are in a state that looks like struggle because you are in the middle of a shed, and the shed requires the temporary clouding of the old vision so that the new eyes can form underneath. The snake's eyes does not stay clouded. That is the critical detail. The cloudiness is not the destination. It is the process. As the shed completes, as the old skin is released, the eyes clear. The colors return. The snake emerges brighter, more vivid, with more defined patterns and markings than it had before. It is longer, it's larger, it's more capable, and it can eat again. It can move again. And it does all of this without any reference to the skin it left behind. Your critics, your doubters, your haters, right? The people who were attached to the old version of you, they're going to find that shed skin on the ground and call it your body. They're going to point at it and say, you fell off. You lost it. You're not what you used to be. Let them point, right? Let them gather in their own moments, right? Because you already are somewhere else, brighter, clearer, moving toward the harvest with eyes that work at a completely different level than what came before, right? The clouding is not the crisis. The clouding is the evidence that the shed is active, right? Trust the process. Work through the rough ground. The eyes clear when the shed is complete. And listen, I need to stop for a second, right? I need to stop for a second and run a diagnostic. Last night we talked about running diagnostics, right? Because one of the most consistent patterns I've observed in people who come to this community is that they do not know that they are suffocating. They have normalized the restriction so completely that they have reframed it as their personality, their season, their current chapter, and they're not in a chapter. They are in a constriction, right? And they have made peace with it in a way that is costing them everything. The suffocation does not always announce itself. It rarely shows up as an obvious crisis. It is more often a slow dimming, a gradual loss of momentum that gets explained away as life, right? As circumstance, as the reality of being an adult with responsibilities, as the natural plateau that comes after a certain level of success. None of those explanations are wrong exactly, but they are incomplete. And the incomplete explanation is the one that keeps you exactly where you do not want to be. And tonight, I'm giving you a 4-question diagnostic. I want you to answer these honestly, not for me, for yourself, because the diagnosis only works if the information going in is accurate, right? And here it is. Question number 1. Are you working hard but feeling no meaningful forward movement? Not laziness, not lack of effort. You are putting in real time, real energy, and real resources, and the output does not reflect the input at all, right? The effort is real. The skin is just so tight that the effort has nowhere to go. You are working inside of a container that has already hit the ceiling, right? And then question number 2. Do you feel most alive talking about what you used to do rather than what you are building right now? Right? And be honest. Do you light up in most conversations of talking about what you used to do back in the day? Right? Listen, nostalgia is not inherently dangerous. Nostalgia as the primary fuel source means the present does not have fire in it. And then question number 3. Have you stopped being uncomfortable in a meaningful way? Right? Because real growth is uncomfortable, not painful. Uncomfortable. And there's a distinction, right? Because pain is damage, discomfort is development, right? You are in a maintenance environment. And maintenance is where visions go to die slowly and quietly while you convince yourself you're being disciplined, right? And then question number 4. Question number 4. Are you more afraid of being wrong about the new direction than you are tired of the old one? That's fear. And that fear that you've committed yourself to is blocking your path. It's blocking your path. It sounds like caution. It's not. It's the last defense. It's the last defense, right? Of something that has already served its purpose and does not know how to let go, right? 2 or more yes answers, and tonight is not a motivation experience for you. Tonight is a clinical one, right? The diagnosis is in. The prescription is one word. It's time to shed. The doctor is administering medicine for you. Go pick up a bottle of shed, right? Take 2 capsules at 500 milligrams apiece and call me in the morning, right? Call me in the morning. Listen, I would not sell you a sanitized version of this, right? That is not what we do on this show. And it is not what the Final Boss community signed up for. If you wanted comfortable half truths that are wrapped in hype, that 100 of these other shows are doing, then it's not the show for you, right? Because this is not that. So let's talk honestly about what this shit costs. Because the cost is real, and going in without counting it is how people start a transformation and abandon it at the first invoice, right? Because the shed costs. The shed costs relationships. This is the cost that surprises people most, and it shouldn't. When you shed an identity, when you release the skin that people knew you by and step into the emerging version of yourself, some of the people attached to that old identity lose their anchor point in you. And people who lose their anchor point do not always respond with grace. Some of them will fight the shed. They will call it a phase. They will say you changed like it's an accusation. Like the fact that you grew is betrayal of the version of who they were comfortable with. They're not wrong that you changed, but they are wrong that the changing is the problem. Listen, you cannot hold yourself in an outgrown skin to preserve someone else's comfort. That is not loyalty. That is not self-abandonment disguised. That is self-abandonment disguised as consideration. The people who are meant to be in your next season will recognize the new skin. The people who are not meant to be in your next season will be uncomfortable with it. Both pieces of information are useful, right? The shed costs certainty. The old skin, no matter how tight it had gotten, was known territory. You knew the dimensions of it. You knew how it moved. You knew exactly what it felt like because you had been wearing it long enough to stop noticing. The new skin is raw. It's exposed. It's sensitive. It has not been tested under full pressure yet. Living in a new skin before it hardens requires a tolerance for vulnerability that most high achievers have specifically trained themselves to avoid because vulnerability and strength were presented to them at some point as opposites, right? But get it. Get this. They're not opposites, right? They're not. Vulnerability and service of growth is one of the most advanced forms of strength there is. The shed costs time. This is the one that frustrates the builders, the operators, the strategists, right? The ones who run on timelines and deliver dates. The shed does not respond to your project management software. Biology does not care about your quarterly goals. The rebirth has its own timeline. Your job is not to rush the process. Your job is to cooperate, cooperate with it fully so it does not have to repeat itself. The shed costs the audience that only knew the old you. Some followers, some fans, some colleagues, right? They connected with the version of you that no longer exists. When you shed, some of them unfollow, like literally on the platform and literally in real life. They were attached to the skin, not to the snake. When the skin is gone, they have nothing else to hold on to. That's when you let them go. You let them go and you travel lighter, right? You count every one of those costs with clear eyes because you have new lenses, right? And then you move forward anyway. That is the mandate. Count it, pay it, and move on, right? Listen, we're at the midway point. And I need y'all to understand something, all right? I'm going to ask you to do something right now, and that is, and this is not an option, right? It's not suggested. This is a requirement. I require you to do this, right? I'm gonna say it slow. Get your phone, get a notebook, get a napkin, whatever. Get something to write on, right? Get the notes app if you have it. Whatever you have access to in this moment, open it up right now because we're not moving past this segment until the work gets done. People, right? I need you right now to write one sentence that answers this specific thing that I'm going to ask. The skin I am shedding this season is blank. You fill in the blank. Fill in the blank with honesty, not performance. Nobody else is grading this. Nobody else even has to see it. This is not a social media post. This is like this is not content for the page, right? This is a contract between you and a version of yourself that is waiting on the other side of the shed. And it deserves your most honest answer, not the most impressive one. A lot of people, right? A lot of people know exactly what the answer is. They've known for months, even years. Some of you guys are stuck in the shed and you've been in the shed, that same spot for years. And you know what you have to do, but you refuse to do it, right? You're too comfortable. The shed is a new experience that you're not ready for. You fear the next level, right? That, my friends, is something that you need to sit with, right? I need you to write that down. And if you have not written it down, because writing it down makes it real in a way that thinking about it does, right? You want to be real, you have to be accountable. Real means you have named the thing, and now that thing has been named, and you cannot pretend you do not know what needs to happen. You need to name it. Name it anyway, right? And to my motivators in the room, who understand that better than most, right? That declaration precedes transformation. You do not stumble into a new identity by accident. You do not wake up one morning and discover you have somehow become a different version of yourself, right? Transformation is declared before it's demonstrated. You declared the old one expired. You named a new direction. And then you execute in the direction of the declaration even before the evidence catches up, right? And the warriors in the room who understand that every successful mission requires a clear objective. You cannot execute on a vague intention. You cannot brief the team on a feeling. The objective has to be named with specificity, or the execution will be scattered, right? The skin you are shedding is your objective for the season. Name it with the same specificity. I just said the word specificity that you would bring to any mission briefing, right? And to my final bosses who are in the room, who've built things, you know that every significant thing you have ever built started as a decision you made before you had all the resources, right? The confidence or the confirmation that it would work. The declaration came first. The evidence followed. This, my friends, is no different. And to my smarts in the room who know the research on identity-based changes, right? James Clear laid this out extensively, confirms that behavior follows identity declaration. You do not build the habit and then become the person. You decide who you are becoming, and the habits restructure themselves around that identity. The declaration is not ceremony, it is mechanics. Write the sentence, date it, keep it, right? Listen, execution starts with the declaration. So do the work now before we go any further. Do the work now because the harvest is coming. The harvest is coming. The snake does not shed in soft grass. I need you to understand this completely because it changes how you interpret everything that is happening in your life right now. The snake does not go find the most comfortable, padded, frictionless surface it can locate and attempt the shed there. The process does not work on soft ground. The snake finds rock, bark, gravel, coarse surfaces, rough edges. The friction of those surfaces against the loosening skin is what mechanically enables the old layer to separate from the new one. Without the rough ground, the shed cannot complete. The snake is simply willing itself out of the old skin through determination and mindset. The rough ground is doing active physical work in the process. This is the most counterintuitive truth in tonight's episode, right? And I need it to hit and I need it to land. And I need you to understand the full weight of that statement. The rough ground in your life is not punishment. The rough ground is the mechanism. Every single point of friction in season 4 that you've been interpreting as an obstacle, as an attack, as evidence that things are not working out, is actually rough ground. It is the surface that is doing the mechanical work of separating you from what you have outgrown. And the moment you reframe it, right, in that way, the moment you stop fighting the friction and start using it, the shed accelerates. Now, let me be specific, right? Let me be specific about where the rough ground is most commonly located for the people in this room. The difficult conversation you've been putting off for 3 months. The one where you have to say something that would change the relationship. Where you have set the boundaries that you should have set a year ago. Where you have to confront the dynamic that everyone can see, but nobody is saying it out loud. That conversation is the rough ground. Stop avoiding it. Walk toward it. It is doing something for you. You have to stop denying it, right? The business that is not growing at the rate you projected, the offer that is not converting, the model that made sense on paper but is hitting friction in the market, that resistance is rough ground. It is not proof that you were wrong. It is information that is separating you from an approach that has been outgrown so you can find the one that actually fits the next level. The relationship, personal or professional, that is challenging every assumption you carry about yourself, that keeps exposing the parts of you that are not as solid as you thought. The surfaces that the belief systems and the patterns and the reactions you thought you had dealt with. That is rough ground. That friction is working on you in the deepest possible way, right? The financial pressure that is forcing you to make smarter decisions instead of comfortable ones. That is rough ground. That pressure is shedding a version of your financial identity that was built on ease and replacing it with one built on discipline. And here's the discipline I want you to practice starting tonight. When something gets hard, before you react, before you resist, before you try to remove or avoid the friction, ask one question, right? Ask, is this breaking me or is this shedding me? That's the question. Because those two things can feel identical in that moment, right? But there's the difference. And the difference is direction. Friction that breaks has no productive outcome. Friction that sheds is moving you towards something. You choose which category it belongs in by what you do with it. Find your rough ground, walk toward it, stop denying it, and you use it, right? And you use it. And I said this in the beginning. I'm bringing it back right now, right? Because we're deep enough into the conversation that you can understand the full weight of it, right? And it's going to land, it's going to hit the way it's supposed to, right? 93 episodes from tonight. Season 4 ends, and season 5, the harvest begins. I need you to understand what a harvest actually is at the operational level, not the poetic version, the functional one, right? Because a harvest is the systematic collection of everything that was planted, watered, cultivated, and grown during the growth season. The farmer who walks into the harvest field does not plant anything in that moment. There is no new sowing in the harvest season. You collect what was already sown. You reap what was already grown. The abundance or scarcity of the harvest is not determined by what you do during the harvest. It is determined entirely by what you did during the growth season that preceded it, right? Which means every decision that you make in the next 93 episodes is a seed, right? Every skin you shed is clearing ground for new root systems that will produce in season 5. Every difficult conversation you have, every pivot, every execute, every belief system, every release, every relationship, every outdated credential that you stop leading with is all going into the field that the harvest will collect. This is why I keep using the word urgency and not panic, because urgency, right? Think about urgency. There's a hard distinction between those two states. Panic is reactive. It scatters energy. It produces bad decisions at a high speed. Urgency is intentional. It focuses energy. It produces deliberate decisions with an understanding of time sensitivity. The urgency tonight is this: the shed has to happen in the rebirth. You cannot defer the shed to the harvest. By the time season 5 begins, the window for certain shedding work will have closed. The season will have changed. What was available to be released in the rebirth will be calcified into something much harder to address in the harvest. The skin that you could have shed in season 4 with intention and process becomes the thing that limits your harvest capacity in season 5 in ways you cannot fully predict right now. 93 episodes is not a long time. When you are talking about the depth of transformation that the skins we name tonight actually require. Some of those shedding processes take weeks of deliberate work. Some take months. The justified wound skin in particular, the one built on real trauma and real betrayal, the one that does not respond to a single Monday night of Motivation Monday, right? That one requires ongoing deliberate work, possibly professional support, and sustained commitment to releasing what is genuinely costing you, right? And you can start right now. You can start right now, not because the harvest is threatening. Start now because the harvest is waiting, because everything being built in the rebirth is building toward a season 5 that is going to require a version of you that the current skin cannot contain. You want to show up to the harvest ready to receive everything that season is available. Shed the skin. Shed it now during the rebirth because the harvest is coming. That is the architecture. Work within the architecture, right? Now, we have spent the vast majority of tonight talking about what needs to be released, right? And what was necessary, I've gone over. It's okay. And what was necessary, because most people cannot fully commit to the shed without understanding exactly what they're releasing and why. But this community does not just tear down, we build. So let us talk about what actually arrives when the shed completes, right? The first characteristic of new skin is sensitivity. And I need to conceptualize this correctly because sensitivity is the culture, in this culture, gets misread as fragility, right? And they are not the same thing. New skin is raw. It registers everything. What used to wash over you without landing now lands with precision. What used to be background noise becomes signal. Conversations that you would have moved past without processing now carry information that you actually receive and integrate. That is not a weakness. That is heightened perception. The old skin had been through enough weather and friction that it had developed a thickness that was protective but also dulling. The new skin picks up everything that is a feature. Use it, right? Use it. The second characteristic is visibility, right? Every snake that completes a successful shed emerges with more vivid coloration than it had before, more defined patterns, more distinct markings, more recognizable in its environment. The rebirth is not a disappearing act. It is not a retreat into obscurity. It is an emergence. You become more visible, more distinct, more defined as a result of the shed, not less, right? The people who said you lost something when you changed were looking at the shed skin. They were not looking at what came out of it. Do not let their limited perspective become your operating instruction. That characteristic, oh, I'm sorry. The third characteristic is structural strength. New skin has not been subjected to weathering of the previous season. It does not carry the microfractures and stress patterns of the old layer. It is built at a structural level, right? For the next stage of pressure, not the last stage, the next one. The old skin was calibrated for the level you were at when you grew into it. The new skin is calibrated for the new level you are growing toward right now. And here's the fourth characteristic. Fourth characteristic is the one that I want to close this segment on because it is the most important and most misunderstood, right? Because new skin does not add anything that was not already there. The shed does not give you a new identity. It does not install capabilities or gifts or callings that were absent before. New skin grows to the exact shape of what it covers. It reveals the form that was underneath all along, compressed and constrained by layers of what was outgrown. The shed does not make you something new. It makes you exactly what you were always supposed to be. That, my friends, is the rebirth, not the creation of a new person, the revelation of the real one. Right? And right now, I'm talking to each and every last single one of you, right? Individually. And I need you to receive what is directed at you specifically, right? To my smarts in the room, you came tonight because you process information at a high level and you needed something substantive to work with, right? I respect that. You get the biology, you got the mechanics, you got the diagnostic, you got the framework and the research context, right? You have enough information to make the decision. You have had enough information for a while. The bottleneck has not been data for a long time, and you know that. The smarts do not struggle with understanding. They sometimes struggle with committing to a direction before all the variables are fully resolved, right? But the shed does not wait for all the variables to be resolved. It waits for you to make the move, to make a decision. Stop analyzing, start executing. The data is in. The conclusion is clear. What skin is coming off this week, right? And to my fighter bosses in the room, you have been here since the foundation of this community. You have heard the doctrine across multiple seasons. You have the frameworks. You have the language. You know the architecture. Tonight is not an information episode for you. Tonight is an accountability episode. The final bosses does not just know the doctrine. The final boss lives in it at its highest standard, right? And right now in this season, the standard is the shed. What is the one skin you have been carrying that the final boss has no business wearing anymore? Name it. Put it down. Do it tonight, right? And to my motivators, you are the heartbeat of the community. The ones who show up for other people without being asked. The ones who send a message, make the call, share the post, hold the space. You guys are incredible at pouring into others. I need you to do something uncomfortable tonight. I need you to pour into yourself the same intensity you bring to everyone else. Because you cannot build a legacy of motivation from a vessel that is suffocating inside old skin. Your capacity is to give is directly connected to your willingness to shed what is compressing you. Shed first, then pour. The outflow will be bigger than anything you have ever produced. And to my warriors, right? You know how to take a hit and keep moving. You know how to push through when everything in the environment is saying stop. You have survived things that you would have finished most people. And you're still here, right? With us on Monday night for Motivation Monday. Building, learning, growing, right? That is a warrior nature. That is not in question, but tonight is not a push through episode. Tonight is a put down episode, and that is a different skill set. The warrior who cannot put down a weapon that no longer serves the mission is not demonstrating discipline. They are carrying dead weight into a live operation. It's going to slow you down. It's going to compromise you, right? It's going to make you ineffective, and it's going to cost the mission. Identify the dead weight, put it down, travel lighter, fight sharper. Until all the people in the community, I'm giving you guys the same instruction. One mandate, one season, one direction. Shed or suffocate. There's no third option. There's no hybrid approach where you keep the old skin on, right? And one side, you move into the new skin on the other. The shed requires full release. Partial shedding is still suffocation, just slower. All the way in or all the way compromise. Go all the way, right? Go all the way. Give me about 5 minutes. I need 5 more minutes, right? Inspiration. Inspiration without instruction is entertainment. We do not do entertainment on this show. We do transformation. And transformation requires a protocol. So here is the shared protocol for this week. Not this month, not this quarter, but this week and right now. Step 1, name it, right? Name it. Some of you have already done that. Not in your head, but out loud. Write it down, right? Say it to yourself. Scream it. Say it to yourself in the mirror, right? Because language is intention, right? Keeping it to yourself, that thought keeps the decision theoretical. You have to say it out loud. Voice makes it real. When you speak it out loud, you engage a different part of your brain, a different part of your identity processing system. The decision becomes anchored in a way that internal processing alone cannot produce. You have to name it, say it out loud, and do it tonight, right? Step 2, identify the rough ground you've been navigating around and walk toward it this week. You know what it is. You've been avoiding it. The conversation, the decision, the pivot, the application for the thing you keep telling yourself you will apply for when you feel more ready. The boundary you keep almost setting. The financial commitment you keep circling without landing. Whatever piece of friction you have been surgically and strategically avoiding, that is your rough ground this week, right? One step toward it, not the whole thing necessarily, right? One step. Because one step toward the rough ground is proof to your system that the shed is not just intention, it is an active process. And then step 3, do one thing from the new identity this week, not from who you were, from who you are becoming. This is important because the new skin needs weight-bearing activity to harden correctly. If you shed the old identity and then do nothing from the new one, the new skin stays raw and vulnerable longer than it needs to. Plant one flag in the new territory this week. Make one decision with the new version of you instead of the old version of you. Take one action that belongs to the next chapter, not the last one. Even before the shed is fully complete, move from the new identity. The act of moving from it accelerates the release of the old one. And then step 4, document the shed. Write it down. Date it. What was released? Why it was released? What it cost, right? What it felt like to let it go. This is not journaling for therapeutic processing, although it is a legitimate benefit, if I'm also so myself. This is strategic documentation of your transformation, right? Season 5 is the harvest. When you get to the harvest, you will want to know exactly what was planted in the rebirth, right? You write it down. Those are your seeds. You will want to be able to trace the line from the shed to the fruit. You will want the record that says on this date today, in this season that we're in right now, that you identified the restriction, you named it out loud, you walked toward the rough ground and moved into a new identity. And you documented the moment the shed begun. That record is going to matter more to you than it will right now, right? I gave you 4 steps. Name it, walk it, move, document. All right? Do it tonight. Do it tonight, man. Do it tonight. And listen, this is episode number 207. 207. Season 4 of the Rebirth. Right? Before I close, I want to say something that does not always get said in motivation spaces, right? Because sometimes because motivation spaces sometimes prioritize the change over the truth. And this community deserves both. The version of you that needs to be shed was not a failure. It was not a mistake. It was not something to be ashamed of or apologize for. That version of you was built with whatever was available at that time. It was built from the resources, the beliefs, the information, the environment, and the experiences that existed when it was constructed. It did things that needed to be done. It survived things that could have ended. It built things that are now foundational. It showed up when showing up was the hardest possible thing. You need to honor that. Honor it fully. Honor it completely. Honor every mile of that version of you and put it in. Put it in the shed and then release it, right? Not because it was insufficient, but because you grew, because the mission grew, because what the next season requires cannot fit inside what the last season produced. And the highest honor you can pay to everything you built and survived is to take it as foundation and build something above it that the old version could not have reached. That is not betrayal. That is the purpose. That is why the work was done in the first place. The snake does not carry the old skin. It leaves it on the rock exactly where the shed happened. That shed skin stays on the rough ground like a marker, like evidence, not a grave, a marker. Something lived, right? Something lived there, grew beyond that, and it continued, right? Your critics will find a marker and call it your body. They will say you fell off. They will point out the skin you left behind and make a story of it, right? Let them talk. Let them say whatever they say, right? Because you've shed those people. That's why they're behind you. You're already somewhere else. Your eyes are clearer. You have a different lens. Colors are bright, moving toward a harvest that is being set up by everything happening in this exact season. 93 episodes from tonight, season 5 begins. The harvest is not a reward for surviving the rebirth. The harvest is the direct output of the work you do in the rebirth. Seed by seed, shed by shed, decision by decision. Listen, you showed up for this episode, and thank you so much. I appreciate you. I showed up for this episode with only half my voice. That is not an accident. That is the signal. That is the beginning of the shed. And I'm probably shedding right now. That's why I lost my voice. Right? That is restlessness. That is readiness. The thing you felt before you even pressed play tonight. That was not just motivation. That was the old skin getting loose. Answer the call, right? Do not negotiate with it. Do not wait for a better week or a clearer sign or permission from someone who cannot give you what you only can give yourself. Shed or suffocate. The choice is real. The window is now. The harvest is waiting. And to my smarts, to my final boss, to my motorists, and to my warriors, I am the one and only, the final boss. This is the Final Boss Podcast. Season 4, The Rebirth. Episode 207 is complete. I will see you again tomorrow for Tech Tuesday with the Sensei, right? Voice halfway intact, hopefully better. But we will be here. And I will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. live. And if this episode resonates with you, share it with 3 people, right? Share it with 3 people. And if it does resonate with you, let it marinate in your spine. And always remember, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but the pain of regret is even heavier. I am here. We are here. And to each and every last single one of you, right? Each and every single one of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you for joining the show tonight. Be balanced, be equal, and be safe. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry for holding you guys over for 20 minutes, but hey, I had to get the mission out there, right? I had to get the mission out there. So enjoy the mission, complete the task, do the work. Do the work. This is the rebirth, and it is time to shed. Go shed. See you soon.